come on back in, grab your seats, and we'll be done here in about an hour or so. So this is a panel of what I'll call backbone organizations. These are groups that do collective impact type work, or they work with multiple organizations on a set of priorities or goals. And so while they are technically nonprofits, they're really doing collaborative work in the community with some specific focus areas that might be different and diverse, but working with other organizations to really see community-wide goals be accomplished. And so we're just going to go down the panel. Why don't we just do a brief introduction of who you are and what organization you're with, and then we'll circle back and start kind of talking about some of the things that are going on in your organization right now.
Hi, my name is Fiona Bond, and I am CEO of Creative Waco, which is the Arts Council local arts agency for Waco and McLennan County.
And Fiona grew up in Waco, and just kidding.
Far East.
Tell her where you're from. Tell them where you're from.
Oh, yeah, originally from the UK, if that was not obvious. Yeah.
All right, there you go.
But like everybody else, she got here as quickly as she could.
Exactly.
My name is Wendy Ellis, and I'm the CEO for United Way of Waco McLennan County.
I'm Jessica Addis, the CEO for Prosper Waco.
And I'm Mike Voglar, the Executive Director for the Greater Waco Sports Commission.
Fiona, why don't you talk to us kind of a little bit about about Creative Waco and some of the things that are going on in Creative Waco that you're excited about right now.
I'm sure I can talk about Prosper Waco too, if you like.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, first, it's a real honor and delight to be here. A lot of the work that we do with Creative Waco, I feel, has a very close relationship to the faith community. I brought a couple of show and tells. And I want to say, I literally wrote the book on the arts in your church some time ago, it has to be said, and before moving to Waco.
This is a book called The Arts in Your Church, A Practical Guide, Fiona Bond. I didn't even know about, she literally wrote the book. It's very impressive.
And I wanted to share that with you because that's part of my why for the work that we're doing, growing the arts and cultural sector here in Waco. I truly, and I won't go in, you want to hear from everybody, but I truly believe that our creativity is a God-given characteristic. It is part of being made in the image of a creator God, and that aspect of our culture and our society is how we connect, how we see the divine in each other. And so the reason that we formed Creative Waco is to allow that flourishing and growth to happen in our community, to support arts organizations in all art forms. We serve as the grant-making organization for grants that come from the city, the county, the state, and now from National Endowment for the Arts to local arts nonprofits. We also do work connecting leadership and creatives in our community. So we run Waco Arts Alliance, which is a networking and professional development infrastructure for people who run cool things and make projects and programs happen in the arts and cultural sector. And then you'll also have seen some of the things that we do in the public art sphere. So I'm sure you will have seen some of the murals that we have created in around our downtown area. Those we describe as being a byproduct of the actual program, which is an apprenticeship program for young people, 80% of whom are the first in their families to have ever considered post-grade school education. And this is an opportunity for them to get a paid work experience learning how to turn a creative idea from concept to completion. They learn all of the skills involved in that process, and in the process, create a movie and a mural. And then you will probably also have seen some of the public art that we've created, things like the Sculpture Zoo. Hands up if you've seen the animals by the river. If you haven't, you really should, because they're amazing. And those are created by diverse artists from all over the nation, and were privately funded by donors in our community. And we had the privilege of working with the city and our Parks and Rec department to implement those. So those are just some of the things that we do as an organization. Really, whenever it comes to growing Waco as a cultural destination or a place that artists and creatives can flourish, we are in the mix trying to make that happen, trying to grow Waco as somewhere that is not only growing economically and in terms of all the things that we want to see flourish, but that really has a heart to the creative and cultural expression of who we are as humans and how we are connected with each other.
Jessica, I see what you did to me here when you skipped over and you wanted me to follow Fiona. So thanks a lot, Fiona. Appreciate that. No, again, my name is Wendy Ellis, and I'm the CEO for United Way of Waco McLennan County. And later this year, we'll be celebrating our 100th year of service in the Waco McLennan County area. Thank you. So we're very proud of that. And being part of the community for a very long time. And in that time, we have been able to invest over $100 million back into our local nonprofits in the region. And we specifically support nonprofits that work to help people improve their educational opportunities, their health, their financial stability, and provide safety net services when a family finds themselves in a moment of crisis. So those are our areas of focus. And what I have found since starting with United Way is that because we are a global brand, people often know the name or think they know who we are, but they don't really know what we do. And so one of the things that I really try to emphasize and make sure that everyone understands is that we are an organization. We raise our money annually, local giving, local impact, and all of our money stays here. And we have over 43 local nonprofits that are eligible to receive funding through United Way that are working in the health, education, financial stability, and safety net service areas. And that's where we focus our work. And in doing that, what we have been doing the last several years that we're really proud of and excited for, we serve as a bridge between the for-profit sector and the nonprofit sector. We find the resources and we bring those resources to the nonprofit. And we have really focused on equity as a core value for us. And in that process, we restructured our grant-making model several years ago to open it up and allow access for a lot of smaller nonprofits who may not have a grant writer on staff, may not have had the resources to put into going after some of those grants. And we've been able to provide those resources and open that up over the last several years. And so we're really proud of that work. And in addition to that, our impact work has been looking at the quality of life for children ages 0 to 5 in our community. And the pre-pandemic statistic was that 29% of children ages 0 to 5 in McLennan County are growing up in poverty. 29%. That was a pretty staggering statistic to me, and one I hadn't really recognized or realized before. And so when you think about that, and that is the children ages 0 to 5. So 29% of children ages 0 to 5 are in poverty. And so we wanted to look at how do we improve the quality of life for those children? How do we make sure that they're school ready when they hit kindergarten and that they are poised for success? How do we break down those barriers for them? And so we asked ourselves, we put a report out in 2021 asking the question, are the children well? And it focused on community voice and community feedback about what they needed, what parents, what grandparents, caregivers needed to improve the quality of life for those children ages 0 to 5. And we took those community responses and we took what they told us that they needed and we formed a community group that has been worked for over a year on a planning process that resulted in the McLennan County Child Wellbeing Community Action Plan. And there's 5 areas of focus in that plan: improving access to high quality childcare and educational opportunities, meeting the basic needs of children and families, creating access to resources that are available, opening that up so everyone has access to those resources, creating community connection, which we really didn't realize when we started was going to be such an emphasis for so many, but bringing those connections together and then working to eliminate the racial divide. And those are the 5 areas of focus of that action plan. And while as United Way has had the opportunity to and the honor to serve as the facilitator and the convener for the groups that have worked on that plan, What I want everybody to know about it is that it is truly a community plan. It is not something that any one organization can accomplish on its own, and it takes the work of everyone to move the needle in any of those areas. And so right now what we're seeing is a lot of interest and a lot of conversation in our community, especially surrounding the Child Care Initiative. And that's where we're working right now on how do we bring all of the interested parties together, how do we highlight the programs that are trying to form and make sure that those programs are responsive to what the community members have told us that they need. And so that's what we're really proud of in the work that we're doing, and what I always try to emphasize with everyone about United Way is that we give everyone an opportunity to be a philanthropist at whatever level is comfortable for them, so that we bring everybody together to help make a difference in the community, and it's everybody doing that small part that can create a huge impact for our community.
Well, again, I'm Jessica Addis. I think you heard from one of our outstanding colleagues this morning on the Building Financial Security, Herman Pereira, who shared that I was just named the CEO of Prosper Waco. So I'm sharing that with you all to ask for your grace. I think this is my first time actually speaking to a large group like this, representing Prosper Waco, and I've got several of our board members here, the mayor, Dr. Shields, Pastor Hunter. So y'all please don't heckle me too badly in front of my bosses. I'd like to be in this role longer than 2 days. I think this is my officially day 2 for me. So I'm really excited to be here today in this Backbone panel and really talking about the importance of collective impact. Prosper Waco was founded in 2012, so we don't have a 100-year legacy, but we were started by our former mayor, Mayor Duncan, and Mayor Dupuy, who recognized that some of the biggest challenges that face our community are things that are bigger than any one organization. Like all of you, you share aspirations for your congregation, for your church, for your community, for your parishioners. You see that the disparities and experience and outcome, and you're motivated to change. Prosper Waco also has those same aspirations of seeing a Waco where all residents can have access to health care, to education, to be able to earn a wage and build wealth. And so we were founded with a collective impact model, recognizing that no one organization or entity has the silver bullet. Okay, this is a faith conference, so I guess I'll just say like parentheses, unless we're talking about eternally and Jesus. So maybe that, but otherwise, it's going to take all of us. We need the perspective. We need the diversity of experience, of resources, of expertise in order to solve some of the big, complex challenges that so many of our people are focusing. So when Prosper was founded, we really looked at if we want to move the needle for our community. And Wendy mentioned 30% of children in Waco living in poverty. To put that in perspective, the national average is 7. Okay, so the state average is 14. So the state of Texas is twice the national average. In Waco, we're twice the state average. If we want to make a difference, if we want different outcomes for our children, for our residents, what can we do now to impact the future? And so we really focused on a few key areas, being financial security, health, and education, and really looking at how can we bring together partners and stakeholders, creating a shared vision for what our goals are, and how can we all focus and all do our work to help move the needle. I read an interesting book last week, and it was talking about how leadership requires us all to lead and all to act in our different spaces. All right, so if we really want to move the needle, it can't just be any one of us. It's all of us doing these actions in our spaces. So what do we want to do, and how can we all contribute our part to lead our communities and to bring about the change that we want to see? I think one of the core values and things that Prosper Waco offers is really offering that data and tracking. And we've seen it at the state level, how the state now is starting to say, we can kind of pat ourselves on the back and say what we want about how great we're doing, but the proof is in the pudding, and numbers don't lie. And so it's really important that we look at data to assess how we're doing. And more importantly, we heard the panel earlier today about equity. It's important that we look at disaggregated data. One of our core beliefs in Waco, at Prosper Waco, is that the life outcomes shouldn't be determined by the zip code in which a child or a person lives. It shouldn't just be the white children, but the black and the brown children across our community at every zip code, all people who should have access to those core things. And so one of the ways that we can know how we're doing is to do an honest analysis of those numbers. And so we provide a service to the community that's Waco Roundtable, looking at data. It's a place where you can go in and track and look at localized data across a number of indicators. We have a PhD level researcher on staff who, if you are interested in specific information around your neighborhood, it's hard to get neighborhood data level, but we'll be happy to really work with you so that you all can really know how you're doing. So I think that, and so that we can know as a community how we're doing, where to focus. So I'm excited to be a part of this work. Thanks for not heckling me so far.
Well, again, I'm Mike Voglar. I'm with the Greater Waco Sports Commission. I know that we're in a tough time slot being at like 2:30, so everybody's a little bit tired. And so being the sports guy, I love energy, right? But show of hands, who has ever heard of the Greater Waco Sports Commission? All right, there's a couple, that's great. And so the Greater Waco Sports Commission, our mission is to be able to create an economic impact through sports, specifically and primarily through amateur sports, as well as increasing the quality of life of the local residents. And so for us, we're known for some large events like the Ironman coming into town, and that brings a lot of travel and tourism, and people get to stay in the hotels and they get to eat at the restaurants, and that helps create that economic impact here. But it also creates an opportunity for some of our local residents. Instead of having to travel to Houston or to Utah or to some other different places, they get to compete in their own hometown. And so there's a lot of pride and opportunity in that. And so we're really proud to be able to help create the platforms and the opportunities to recruit events, to be able to showcase Waco, but also to be able to help promote health in this community. It comes with a lot of opportunities for volunteering as well. And so, of course, we've got the large events like Ironman. We've got a Spartan competition, which is a 5K obstacle course through McLean Stadium. But even just the past couple of weeks, we had a pro tennis tournament over at the Baylor facilities. We had another youth tournament for tennis over at the Waco Regional Tennis Center. We had a robotics competition at the Extraco Event Center. This upcoming weekend, we've got mountain biking contest or race in Cameron Park. We've got Unbound 5K race coming up here on April 1st. We're also partnering with the Chamber of Commerce and their food truck showdown that afternoon. And then again, we've got our Spartan race. And then we've partnered with a local restaurant the night before to be able to create a pre-game race party. So our goal is really to be able to tie in so many other different entities here, whether it's public or private, whether it's restaurants or hotels. We want to be able to help promote Waco and tie the whole community together. One of the other things that we're really proud of, the quality of life piece, is we created a scholarship sponsorship last year called Team Waco. And so that was for 6 or 5 county residents that wanted to be able to compete in the Ironman. And so that is a extremely difficult triathlon for those of you that are not familiar with it. And so this upcoming year in October, we're going to have the Ironman 70.3 again. And so with that, we've selected 5 county residents again to compete for this upcoming year. And these are folks that are trying to overcome financial, physical, or mental hurdles. And so if you knew any of the competitors from last year, I think that you would be really inspired by their journeys. And then in this room right now, in the very back, if you don't mind raising your hand, we've got Kenneth in the very back. And so he is going to be one of our 5 representatives for Team Waco. And so we partnered and we reached out to different local businesses and said, hey, how can you help support some of the different local community members that are wanting to be able to compete in this? And so they have donated their either products, equipment, gym memberships, services, race entries. And so each one of these sponsorships is $7,000 a piece. So that's a $35,000 program that's been grown out of nothing but just being able to link arms with the folks here in the community. And so that's just kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, whether it's a sporting event that maybe you're passionate about, we want to be able to help bring that here to Waco. Maybe it's creating an event, like we've got a 5K and a 10K and a fun run coming up at Waco Surf because they wanted to be able to help connect with the community. Show of hands, who here knows that there's international surfing here in Waco? 18 minutes away from here. It's unreal. So if you haven't been out there, we've got a Mother's Day run so that you and your family can come out there and to be able to see that business, that opportunity, and that opportunity to be able to have health and wellness. With all these different sporting events, this is where, again, it can involve the congregation, involve youth. Sports is a really easy way to be able to say, hey, let's go volunteer, let's go link arms, let's go help with this. And then you get to build that relational equity with the youth, with the folks in your congregation, your team. And then you also get a shirt, you get a meal usually, right? There's some other different nice perks about it. And so we want to be able to make some fun, unique opportunities and team building experiences for you and your communities as well.
I'm going to mix it up and go a different direction this time. So we're going to start with Mike and work our way back this way. But Mike, why don't you tell us what are some ways that communities of faith could either engage, and get involved in sports in Waco, or some of the work that the Sports Commission is doing, whether that's in a way that's building the quality of life with families in their congregations, in communities, or through volunteering and helping out?
Yeah, so how could we use your help? Well, ultimately, again, just like the others here, we're a 501c3. We're here to be able to serve the community. That's our primary goal. And so, again, we need to be able to hear from the community. It's hard for us to be able to ask every single person, right? So if you can reach out to us, you can go to our website, our social media. It's just wacosports.org. But that's where you can communicate with us what you're passionate about, whether it is a sporting or a competition that you want to be a part of. But the way that we could really use help is, one, getting the word out about different events that are coming up, but really just service, volunteering. And I'm sure that you guys have heard that a lot today. And so, hey, how can this be a different experience, maybe from some of the other different ones? You know, for our events that are coming up, it's typically a single type of service, right? You're not asking for a long commitment from folks, but maybe a unique one time or two times, in an upcoming week. Maybe it's stuffing packets, right, for the athletes to be able to run. That doesn't require any type of physical activity or heavy lifting, but it's an opportunity still to be able to help serve the local nonprofit and the events. So we can use anybody. I've got 4 kids, and so I bring them out to all the different events, and they help. They might hand out medals to folks, right? And so what kid doesn't love doing that and being a part of the finish line? And so that's where I would just say, hey, please reach out to us if you are looking for an opportunity to serve the community, to be able to serve people, to be able to have kind of a fun event. We've got something every single month that we could use just some extra hands on. So those would be some big pieces. And of course, financially, or if you own a business, or if you know a business that wants to be able to help with Team Waco, right now it's just for folks that are wanting to compete in an Ironman. But really what my vision is for phase 2 is there's other different sports besides an endurance sports like that, and folks in this community that need that extra help overcoming that physical, financial, or mental hurdle. So maybe it's somebody that's part of a volleyball team, but they can't afford maybe a certain resource or to be able to travel for a competition. Well, it'd be pretty neat if the Sports Commission would be able to help be that backstop and to be able to help those organizations or individuals. Maybe it's a site or a facility that needs new lights, or some other different repairs, and they just need a little bit of help. Maybe it's a team that needs some jerseys. I don't know what it is, but I know that there's a number of folks here in this community, and sports is an incredible platform to be able to deliver the message that we all know, to be able to, and be able to translate to people that penetrates their hearts. And so we just want to be able to help with that. So again, if there's something that you're passionate about, we can find a way to be able to exercise that.
And Mike, isn't it fair to say too that if a pastor or someone in a church was like, man, there's these kiddos in my church that really want to be a part of a Little League team. You don't run Little League, but you are a conduit to people who are, so you can say like, yeah, I know, let me figure out a way to get you guys connected. Hey, we want to start a church basketball league. Like, you might be able to help those guys get that off the ground and figure out some solutions to some of those problems to bear. Is that fair to say too?
That's 100% accurate. And so there's a lot of public and private opportunities. And so it's really just, hey, maybe you're looking for something like that, but instead of you having to create all the new programming for it and to create everything from scratch, maybe it's just me helping you get in touch with the other person that's already doing it, and you being able to synergize and be able to build that platform. So instead of starting something brand new, maybe something like that already exists, you're just not familiar with it, and so we want to be able to help be that resource and get you connected.
So if there's any, what I'll just say is if any of your churches or communities of faith have an interest in sports from senior sports, like a grandma basketball league, all the way down to preschool sports, and you see that as an opportunity for engagement in your community, Mike will be a great guy that you could just ping some ideas off of or to get you in contact with the right person. So don't lose his contact information, because we know it's a great way to fellowship. We know it's a great way to engage in our communities, is sports. So thanks, Mike.
Well, I think that is one thing that all of us on this particular panel share, is that for the most part, with the exception, I think, of Fiona, maybe they're doing a lot of great mural projects, but for the most part, we're not really the ones who are on the front lines. We're not the ones who are in the weeds of the day-to-day work. What we try to do is to serve as the backbone and to support those partners in the community who are. So we also can serve as a conduit for if you are passionate about workforce. We're connected and tied to the chambers and to business and industry and looking at labor market data. That's not probably exciting to most of you. Sorry, my nerd showed. If you're excited about education, knowledgeable about the people at our school districts and in post-secondary who are on the front lines, deep connectivity to the nonprofit sector and to other entities across our community, whether it's CIS or Shepherd's Heart, but across the community, those people who are on the front lines. So that's one of the roles that we play. And I'll just flip it around a little bit also, if I may, which is to say that I think the question is, it's also how can we engage with you? Prosper Waco it's a community organization. Our board, if you look at our board, has representatives from diverse stakeholder groups across our community. And I see it as a community asset. And so that means that we need to be listening to the community. We need to be responsive to the community. And we can only do that to the extent that we're engaged with and hearing from the community. We do have a table outside, like so many other partners today, and so you can see some of the working groups that we have, where we're bringing people together. I'm really excited, and I think that we had planned to have, I know that I saw Jeremy Everett from the Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty, who was to be here, and I think it ended up having a conflict. His team is here today. We recently convened some folks around hunger. And one really cool thing, we were talking about SNAP access. So we know that enrollment in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is one of kind of the key ways that we can help address hunger in our community. And we know that at Waco collectively is leaving millions of dollars on the table, y'all, and folks who are eligible for SNAP and not enrolling. And so we convened a conversation where we're talking with several pastors like you all who were in the room, as well as nonprofit partners. And someone said, we have a challenge. We have these mobile distribution sites, and you've got folks like Caritas and Shepherd's Heart who are passing out food. Well, could we enroll folks in SNAP while they're driving through? Or could you pull them aside? Well, we have a problem with childcare, and it's really hard when they have their littles with them. We had a community partner who was in the room who said, well, we could come and provide childcare while you guys do the food. And I think, to me, that was what is the crux of Collective Impact and of Prosper Waco, is recognizing that each of us has different assets. And so it was this group of people who, you all could be that group of people if you want to volunteer. You could be the people who are providing childcare so that folks from Shepherd's Heart or resource navigators from Caritas are helping with SNAP enrollment. Or if you have a church and you want to set up a mobile food distribution site, we know exactly who to connect you with to get on their calendar. Maybe your church is next to a school or is next to a community center. We can help you navigate how you can get a food distribution site or resources there. And so I think that's one of the key roles that we that we play and aspire to play is to be that conduit, to listen deeply to you all, to be responsive, and then again to channel all of our energy and efforts towards the shared vision that for a greater, stronger Waco.
So what I'd say, I think what I'm hearing from Jessica is if you have a congregation who has a specific need that you or your leadership or your congregation feels called to address, then she would be a great person to reach out to and say, we're trying to figure out, we've got a lot of families in our congregation that need to get upskilled to go get a better job because they're struggling right now. Or we got a lot of moms who are really having trouble make ends meet. Like, are there any she would be a great conduit to connect. If you've got a church who has time or resources and wants to participate, and they're like, man, we feel really called or driven to respond to this specific issue, or just want to learn more, Prosper Waco is kind of flight control for issues of financial security, healthcare, and education in Waco, and would be a great person to reach out to just understand more about how to integrate. There's a time and a place to create a wheel for congregations, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you feel called to do. But there's a time and a place to say, man, if there's someone already doing this and we can get on board and support that, then we want to jump in and get behind those organizations. And Prosper Waco can kind of help you find your footing and as they kind of do flight control in financial security, health, and education in Waco. So I think that, again, I'm excited to see Jessica in this role and excited for y'all to engage in that. So, Wendy.
So I think to follow on what the mayor is saying, one of my favorite examples of something like this, as Jessica said, she was kind of nerding out on some of the workforce, and I share that same passion. But what I would want to encourage you with today is that no matter what your idea is, we'd love to talk to you about it. Like, if you have something and you think, man, this is crazy, like nobody's gonna want to jump on with us, or nobody else is gonna see this, call us. We'd love to brainstorm with you and kind of figure out how to make those things happen. One of my favorite projects that I've gotten to be involved with since I've been here, and one of my favorites just because it's so uniquely Waco and the way it kind of all came together and happened. But I had a gentleman contact me one day and he said, hey, want to come sit down and visit with you, and I've got some things to talk about. And I said, okay, come on down. And he brought a friend with him, and we sat there, and I had no idea what they were going to come talk to me about, but it was the new Waco Rowing Center. And they were looking at starting a rowing program for underprivileged children. But as they had started working on this and talking to people, they said, before we can put children in boats to row, they have to know how to swim. And how do we make that happen? Because we've got a population that doesn't have access to private pools, doesn't have access to those aquatic centers. How can we make that happen? And so through United Way, we were able to take the Rowing Center and connect them with YMCA, and then YMCA and the Rowing Center connected with La Vega ISD, and all three of them partnered to create a really successful swim program for students at La Vega ISD. And now that is turning into the potential for a swimming program for the parents, because the parents are like, okay, now my children are comfortable in the water, I need to be there with them. I need to know what's going on. I want to be a part of this with them. And so then they're now taking the next step with that. So that's great community development, and we love being able to be that connector and seeing those types of things. But I think the other thing that United Way can offer is through the work that we've been doing the last few years with our Child Wellbeing Initiative, we have this community action plan, and we've listened to the voice of the community, and they've already identified areas where they could use some help, want to see resources invested, and want to move the needle in the community. So if your congregation is at a point where you're trying to decide, hey, what's our community impact work going to be? What's our community outreach going to be? What's our mission work going to be? We'd love to come in and share with you what we have in that plan, what people have talked about, what needs they see. And I think it can be a great resource and a great starting point for you as you think about what that mission work and what that outreach work would be. So that would be another area where I think that we could be a unique help in your programming. And then, they say that One of the best ways to help yourself is by helping others sometimes, and we have kind of a unique program for that too. We launched what we call our Loaned Executive Program. We relaunched it this year, and that is a group of volunteers who come in and help us with our annual campaign and help us with our fundraising on an annual basis. But we really have worked to make it a win-win situation because we provide training on fundraising and training on other professional public speaking or access to our local nonprofits to help people really learn about the work that's being done in the community. And so we've really tried to create a win-win where those volunteers come in and they help United Way with our annual campaign and our fundraising, but in exchange they leave with a better knowledge of what's going on in the community and also some developed skills to help with fundraising and other efforts as well. So those are some areas that I think United Way could really work with your congregations to help.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that what's so great about hearing about that story is that this is a room of people that have a really unique low ear to the ground on what's going on in the community, with a really unique low ear to the ground on the needs, and also oftentimes a real missional calling. And so having resources like Wendy and Jessica on stage to be able to go to them and just brainstorm and say, like, I have this crazy idea, what kind of, and these folks have ideas of how to make that vision, that calling a reality. And so I would say don't ignore that. If you have that itch that needs to get scratched, if you have that vision that needs to be put on paper or get in front of a whiteboard, there's some great resources on this stage. One of the focuses of United Way is early childhood. And Wendy, I'm really putting you on the spot here, but my understanding is that there is a need for more child care in Waco. Is that accurate?
100%.
And so one of the things that I know a lot of congregations do and already do is do Parents Day Out programs and have facilities where they're utilizing that. But that might be, I'm just going to plant a little seed to say that as you have facilities that might be underutilized, or you might feel like your Parents Day Out program is already tapped out, or your child care program is already tapped out, dream big, because there's a real need in this community. One of the barriers to financial security for families oftentimes is access to quality childcare. Because if a parent can't go to work, if a parent can't find quality childcare, they're oftentimes not going to be able to go to work. And so if your congregation is running a Parents Day Out or daycare center, or has the space to do that, there's none of the ones that I'm familiar with are not feeling already tapped out. But what I would say is don't close that dream because it feels hard. Come meet with people and say, like, we have the space, we have a few extra classrooms, but we don't have the leadership, the money, or the teachers. So what do we do here? And let's talk it out and see, because that's something that I think churches really have oftentimes is the space that's just not being utilized Monday through Friday. And so just a little seed to plant and see if that grows. All right, Fiona.
I hope your mind is as blown as mine about all these incredible stories of impact of how when we connect issues and problems and challenges, we do really well when we think together and connect with each other and partner with each other in solving problems. I'm just going to be very brief on how I think we can serve you, and we exist to serve you and our community as an organization that develops our creative and cultural identity. I'm going to talk about that by telling a story, and then I also want to just touch on how I think you can help us. Recognizing that, and I don't know if you see yourselves in this way, but you are social influencers. You know, I know you may not all record yourselves and post a TikTok regularly about, you know, with your latest favorite music, but you are undoubtedly social influencers. You command the respect of people in your sphere because of the roles that you serve as faith leaders. And that's incredibly important for each of us that serves in these roles, because connectivity is really the backbone work of our community. So I want to tell you a story about how I think we as an organization can perhaps connect with people who are in your congregations and in your faith groups, and also potentially how we can serve your ideas about how to create programming and help you publicize events and activities that you may have. So back in 2020, you remember 2020, it was an unusual year, right? We were just about to embark on a program of professional development for a series of, a whole group of young artists and creators and performers who were very talented and just wanted to figure out, how do I make a living from my creative expertise? And one of those was a young woman, a single mother, by the name of Tashay Sayas, and I think some of her family is in this room today. Well, Tashay she just knew that her calling in life and her path in life was to be a gospel singer. She's incredibly talented. She had won a scholarship to MCC to be in their music program, was doing amazingly, and she had survived all kinds of hardship. Her house had burnt down. She had gone through all kinds of things, and she knew that this was her calling, her path. But she wanted some help to think about how to actually make a living from that profession. And then imagine that is compounded right at the time she starts this course with us. The lockdown happens for the pandemic. And so if you are a performer making money from your creative performances, that's not going to happen for a while. And so long story short, as she went through that program with us, she decided she was going to become a vocal coach online. She was so good and she was so diligent about putting herself out there and following through on the advice and the coaching she was given that she really became nationally recognized. Now she is an artist, a performer, and a coach who is nationally recognized. She's won all kinds of competitions. And the thing that really makes my heart happy is that just recently, Waco won a national award for 3 years' worth of arts and cultural programming on Bridge Street Amphitheater in East Waco. It's called the Levitt Amp Waco Concert Series. It will be starting on April 22nd. Free, family-friendly concerts every Saturday night for 10 weeks. Going through to July 1st. But guess who our first headline singer is going to be? It will be Tashay Sayas. And so, isn't that wonderful? But I hope that illustrates a couple of things that we think are incredibly important. This is what happens when we invest in talent in our community, when we recognize and invest in talent. This is what happens when we give people the resources and the confidence to say, yes, I can do that. And it's also what happens when we create the infrastructure that creates opportunities for them to perform, paint, make a living from their creativity. So this is about creating an ecosystem and an infrastructure of success. And I hope in that story you hear, oh, there are people in my congregation who have talents that are unrecognized, who need to be part of this infrastructure. We have ideas in our congregation about an art exhibition or a play that we could be doing or a concert that we could be having. And maybe this crazy British woman up there could help us figure out how to publicize that or how to take an idea from concept to completion. We actually have a publication, and this is online too. It's called How to Publicize an Event in Waco. Very, very practical guide about all of the things that you need to do if you want to get the word out about an event or an activity that you have. It's applicable to the arts, but actually to anything that you want to get the word out about. We have copies of this on our table in the back there. We also have little bookmarks here, which describe what we are, who we are, have a QR code to our website, which that has all kinds of things that your congregations can engage with, such as we have a directory for creative professionals, so people who want to get the word out about what they do, maybe they want to be hired as a musician, maybe they want to be recruited as a mural artist, they can be on that free of charge, and it's our way of making sure that we connect people who are looking for talent with people who have talent. And then on the back of that, it actually lists some of the ways that we hope you can help us. And so as influencers and as people who really have the power and the authority to shape the way that people interact with our community and how they thrive as members of our community as well as members of your congregation. The very first thing I would say, and this is probably true of all of us, please know about what's going on. And this is why we're so grateful to you, Dylan, and to your colleagues, to our city for putting on this conference, because the very fact that you now know about our existence is just huge. And it means that when someone from my team calls you, hopefully you will know what that means and you will know that that's a legitimate opportunity. So the first thing is, please know about what's going on. We have some wonderful what's on calendars. The Waco Insider, if you haven't come across it yet, is a wonderful capturing of all the live events that go on every week, and it's a free resource that you can get dropped in your inbox every Thursday. It's fantastic. And suddenly you will become the person out of all the people that you know that always knows what's going on, which is very cool. We hope you will help us find talented artists in every art form. Dancers, musicians, filmmakers, writers, visual artists, sculptors, all the people that enrich our community, and you know the ones in your congregations. Please send them our direction. We have all kinds of networking events. We can connect them with people who may want to hire their services. We would love to have volunteer help. We run a number of projects and programs. I don't know if any of you attended Chalk, what I call Chalk Waco, and you guys call Chalk Waco, last year. That's actually pivoting into this multi-week event this year, and we'll have lots more opportunities for vendors and artists. We also have a Dia de los Muertos parade and festival. We're looking at doing a festival, a mini festival to go with the eclipse next year. So we are looking for people to be group volunteers for all kinds of things that we do. We do a lot of data gathering, and we're always looking for people to help with that kind of thing as well. We never say no to sponsorship and financial support, so we have lots of different ways to do that, and fortunately that comes with all kinds of great recognition, really good ways of amplifying your word or your message, and so there are lots of opportunities to do things like that too. We are always interested to know about the cultural history of our community, so if there are things you think we should know on that, we want to know that too, especially as the Levitt Amp concert series rolls out. We want to make that an opportunity to talk about the very rich musical history of East Waco. It's got a long and really proud history of incredible music, and we want to make sure that part of the concert series tells that story. And finally, go to stuff. Go to cool things. You know, there are now 7 theater companies doing incredible programming in Waco. There is literally something for everybody in the music scene, in the performing arts scene, in the visual arts scene. There is an online interactive public art map that you can use with your families and friends to go and discover murals and sculptures, all kinds of things. Go out, enjoy, tell other people, be part of the creativity that's happening in our community. Thank you so much.
I think Fiona said it as well as certainly I could have, but I think that as you have people that want to engage in the creative sector, in the culture, and in art, and you want to connect them to Fiona, she's going to be a great resource to you. If you want to shape the culture of our community, Creative Waco is a great space to jump into that sphere, and again, incredibly thankful for Creative Waco, and incredibly thankful for all 3 of these ladies. Mike had to jump out early to go pick up his kids. We've got some great backbone organizations. I hope you know a little bit more about sports and arts and some of these other nonprofit backbone organizations that are helping our community move forward. So thank you guys so much. Let's give them a hand.